today we welcome two gentlemen. Hopefully both of them will be able to join us, but Dr. Ray Hagins will be joining us this morning. And we hope to also welcome Professor Griff of Public Enemy fame, the pioneering hip-hop group. And they will be with us all morning. We're going to start off talking to Dr. Ray Hagins. And Ray Hagins is renowned for his uncompromising ability to break down the difference between religion and spirituality. And he joins me on the phone right now here. And Dr. Hagins, are you there?
Yes, I am, brother. How are you this morning?
I'm doing excellent, especially now that I got you on the phone. We're still looking to hear from Professor Griff. Hopefully the both of you can talk to us this morning, but we're definitely thankful that you were able to join us this morning.
Well, man, it's my honor. Thank you for having me on.
And I know you can't stay long, but we're gonna jump right on into it.
Okay.
Just jumping right on into your contribution, Dr. Hagins, to the philosophical body of knowledge is to draw a distinction between the concept of spirituality and the notion of religion. Do you argue that these concepts are not merely a distinction without a difference, but different altogether?
Well, they're different altogether and completely incompatible, my brother. Spirituality has to do with freedom. Religion has to do with restraints and constrictions placed on the mind of the individual. Religion can be defined as a set of concepts and ideas that people said God said, and they want us to believe it. This is the power of religion. Religion does not teach us how to think. It tells us what to think. And therefore, it literally places the mind of an individual under arrest to the doctrines and tenets and perspectives of a particular organization or church. And you're not allowed to think outside of that circle when it comes to religion. However, spirituality frees an individual. It makes them truly a free individual, and it gives them a personal and direct connection with the God of their imagination. And the God of their imagination has the ability to communicate with the individual when it comes to making life decisions and matters of life and conduct. So religion is really a restraint that's placed on the weak-minded, whereas spirituality is a gift that is exercised by those who are free.
Yeah, so it's literally the difference between freedom and not being free. Religion restrains your thoughts, your consciousness. Is that what has been historically meant as the religion being the opiate of the masses?
Exactly. Yes. Now, unfortunately, and it's really painful to say this, many people need religion. Okay, and the reason why they need religion is because they have experienced what I call Dr. Amos Wilson calls it menticide. And that is when you actually refuse to allow your mind to do what God designed it to do. So therefore, somebody has to do your thinking for you, somebody has to determine your issues for you, and what have you. When we become spiritual beings, then we step away from that control mechanism that's been placed on us for world power and domination and control. When we step away from that and we truly become free in our spirit, whereas we're able to tap into nature, we're able to hear and speak to the Spirit of God and our ancestors on our own, then that's a wonderful thing, man. Then you begin to grow, you begin to experience life to its fullest, and so much more.
Do you think that, how can people bring themselves, we know just listening to people in my own family, especially people over a certain age, that there's a abiding fear when it comes to questioning anything, especially anything in the Bible or at the church. How do we guard against or fight against this abiding fear that's been with us for quite some time, that people refuse to question?
Well, fear is based in ignorance. And that's the whole agenda behind religion. If we can keep people ignorant, then we can keep them in fear. You follow what I'm saying? Once knowledge comes, once the light of right knowledge comes to the mind, the eyes are open and the fear factor is eliminated. And this is one of the reasons why religion has to have what's called doctrine, because doctrines keep you focused on what I call segmented biblical attention. When I say segmented biblical attention, I mean that you are taught from an early age to only believe and understand certain concepts and certain belief patterns. These restricted or segmented concepts keep you in fear. It's almost like looking at a puzzle. Your listeners can see in their mind a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle, okay? And you're only given 187 of a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle, and they want you to put this puzzle together. It's virtually impossible to do this. So therefore, the little bit that you are able to put together, you begin to feel that this is the whole picture, and of course it's a delusion, a complete delusion, and yet you are told that if you don't understand the whole picture, God is going to get you. God is going to, you're not going to be blessed. If you want the best from God, you have to believe the whole picture, but yet you don't know what the picture looks like because you only have 187 pieces. Mm-hmm. So therefore, that's what religion does to the mind, and it leaves the unknown, okay, as more powerful than the known. And so many people end up leaning on and depending on so-called religious leaders to supply those missing pieces. And that's where the control mechanism comes in.
Well, when we talk about religion and control mechanism, when we look at history and we look at the history of slavery and the people of color in this country, religion and spirituality, or rather religion specifically, takes on a particular sinister role in our history. So I guess the question becomes, how do we, first of all, do you buy into this concept of the post-slavery syndrome? And what role does religion play in that?
Most definitely. Religion, there's nothing more important than a person's relationship with their God. That's the most important thing to an individual. Okay, so now if I can convince you how you should manage this relationship, then I can control you. So if I tell you that that God says that you are to obey me, then I have nothing to worry about as far as your submission. And this is what has happened to us. This was given to us. This is the lie that was given to us, and we still live in that same paradigm today as a people, especially Africans here in America. Yeah, and brother, I don't mean to cut this short, but we got brothers waiting for me in a meeting here in St. Thomas. I'm sorry I crossed up our time schedule. I didn't realize an hour ahead of you.
Yeah, I understand. That's right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ray Hagins, for joining me to see if we can get Professor Griff on the phone this morning. Caller, are you there? You say what? Good morning, caller. Can you hear me?
Is that me?
Yes, that's you.
Yes, my name is Ron.
Hi, Ron.
Calling from Clearwater.
Hi, thank you for calling. What's going on?
Yes,
what's on your mind?
I would have liked the opportunity to talk to the professor.
Yeah, I know.
Because the truth is, there's something called true religion. I wanted to ask him if he thinks that there is a God, is really a God, or God is just a figment of human imagination. And based on his answer, I would have asked about creation, how the creation came into existence, whether creation just spontaneously happened or it was designed.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that anyone who makes a distinction between religion and spirituality is making a distinction between the concept of God. And some people believe, as ancient people did, that God is manifested in nature. And but Christianity has held that God is manifested, personified in the image of man. So, I think it's a valid question.
Who invented Christianity? Where did Christianity come from?
Well, again, he was talking. That is sort of what he was reaching for when he talked about people inventing these religions, and that's the distinction he's making between religion and spirituality. Someone who had a political notion to do that invented the concept of God. I think that didn't come naturally. Ancient people looked around at natural occurrences in the universe that they didn't have any control over, and determined that nature was manifestation of God, and didn't require any dogma, anything written in a book to go along with that. So,
but the truth about it is that because what we have as fact and truth and has been around from time immemorial. In fact, the oldest recordings, oldest writings, and the oldest history is from the Bible. Okay? And the Bible accounts for creation, and it accounts for God creating man in his own image and likeness. So ancient people started out with a knowledge of God, a very personal, direct knowledge of God. I mean, if you believe in Adam, that there was a first man, that would contrast, of course, with man evolving. Okay? And if so, going back to what we call the first cause, or the beginning of all things, one's concept would be shaped or fashioned by where he believes existence started, whether it was spontaneous or it was designed by somebody or a person. And we believe that it was started by a person. I mean, things can't just if there's anything spontaneous, it's God himself. And we are saying that God in time and in space has revealed himself and even became a man in the historical Jesus.
Okay, and who believes that? You're saying Christians believe that. Christians believe that?
But then everything else they can't account. Christians believe it, but is it true or not? Christians believe it, but is it true or not? How would you be able to argue against it, even though it's a belief? But there's a historical Jesus,
right?
Isn't it?
Well, there's a historical Jesus, but again, there are those who have their controversies. Was he divine? Was he a human? But there is a historical Jesus, but that doesn't negate the idea that there are people who still have beliefs that are more spiritual in nature and less religious in nature, in terms of the Trinity, believing in the personification of God in the Son. I mean, a lot of people recognize that the S-O-N, the Son, was came from the S-U-N, this whole idea of the worship of the actual sun in the sky. So again, nature comes to bear, and someone along the line decided that we needed to personify these divinities in order to maintain control. That's what Dr. Hagins was saying. It was all about control.
That's why I would say there's religion, there's true religion, there's false religion. There's a sociological concept of religion, and there is true experiential religion. I'm a Billy man. Listen, man, I have a true experiential religion, knowledge of religion. At 17 years old, God encountered me, man, and nobody could doubt what I experienced and what I possess now. So guys will go along and talk about religion. Of course, religion is a kind of man-made word, but I have a personal relationship with God, and I would like somebody to tell me that is not so. That is in my imagination.
No, nobody can tell you that. And I think that's the whole point. That's part of the point, that no one can tell you that. I guess what I have to say to that is that religion or spirituality are very personal things. And that's, if you are insisting that this is something that is real to you, then that's what you're going to believe. That's what you're going to go with, and you're going to militate against anyone who violates that basic personal relationship. So it's a personal thing.
Before I go, on the other hand, I know Christianity has been Caucasianized and Europeanized and colonized. That's why I don't listen to a lot of those European theologians, many of whom were slave owners. I go back to original beginnings of Christianity, which is in the Gospels and the early church fathers. A lot of these people who we promote in America as Christians were really a bunch of they fashion and they create a framework or a paradigm as though God was white and God was only for the white man, and we build a narrative of Christianity around Europeans, when in fact Christianity did not come from Europe. It came from Israel, of course. It came from the Middle East, and it came from people who had encounters with God, and not a manufactured Christianity as we hear in America today. Okay, Christianity in America is a manufactured Christianity. Christianity in America made black people less than people. The Bible says, "For God so loved the world," we are preaching as though for God so loved the Jew.
Right, it's not just in America. I mean,
the white man,
not just in America though, because we know that the Dutch, when they trekked down to South Africa, reached into the Bible to find a justification for apartheid. So It's very Eurocentric in nature, and I think that's part of what it suffers from even to this day. Christianity. Hey, thank you for your call. That's very good conversation. Caller, are you on the line? You can reach me here at 813-239.
Hello.
Good morning.
I just listened to there was a professor that was on there.
Dr. Ray Hagins, yes.
I thought he made some very good points. I think one of the aspects is, and one thing that Billy Graham said once was that there's a big difference between Christ and Christianity, for example. I think there's a big difference between Buddhism, for example. I think it has to do with the actual experience of a type of a rolling over, a type of epiphany in somebody's life, and not just some doctrines or something like that. And then sometimes when people have those epiphanies, they get like this manual of instructions, and they're kind of limited, and it kind of, then they become too bound up with those that instructional manual and such, But I think it all comes down to direct experience more than anything else.
Yeah, it is, and like I said, it's a personal thing.
Right. Yeah, more than anything. And sometimes people can't even really explain what that spiritual experience is. They just can't do it. Not in words or anything. It's something that's deeply personal. And I think the doctor, hit it right on the head. That if you believe in religion, it basically, you can be told what wars to fight, what to do, who to obey, and such, things like that. But in spirituality, you're thinking for yourself, which is really a much harder road.
Yeah, and I think that's what the purpose of having these kinds of conversations for, and why it'd be very important for us to go and engage Dr. Hagins further on this question, because I think it has a historical role as well as to why there's arrested development, why people don't question. I think it reaches into politics, why people won't question certain things, even in politics, because they are bound by what someone has told them to believe. And
sure, they're afraid. I would agree. I mean, I remember George Bush saying that, God told me to invade Iraq.
Right.
Afghanistan,
And that's enough to make it so, huh?
Yeah, look out.
Yeah.
Okay, I just thought I'd put my 2 cents in.
Thank you for calling.
Alrighty, thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Greetings, Professor Griff.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining me here on the phone this morning. And, we had talked briefly this morning with Dr. Ray Hagins. We had hoped to talk to both of you at the same time, but he's been on for the first 5 minutes of the show, and he already left. But he...
Oh, no, that's a beautiful thing that we talk separately.
Okay, but he left. He got it going, though.
Yeah, Brother Ray Hagins, his conversation would be totally different from mine.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, let's see how
different.
Well, you are no enemy to to controversy. You've had your share of it, and we've been reading about it. So you are Professor Griff. You eventually formed your own group after Public Enemy called the Last Asiatic Disciples. And
wow, you went way back.
And your albums were of an Islamic, an Afrocentric style, combining increasingly spoken word lyrics. What are you doing nowadays, Professor Griff?
Well, I think you're talking almost 15, 20 years ago. That bit of information that you just read right there, and
okay,
the whole Islamic Afrocentric style is definitely written from those other people's perspectives.
Okay.
If they know anything about Public Enemy, Professor Griff, or the conscious era of hip hop, that's just the way we presented our information, because that's who we are. No such thing as Islamic. When you start talking that, just like talking in that fashion, rather, just like your last caller said, that's religion.
Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with the original people. We by nature, Islam is our nature. It's just the way it is. It's nothing to do with capsulizing it and formulating it and stuffing it into a box called religion. We don't do that. That's just not something we as a people do. If you're trying to put a label on it and package it and sell it, of course you have to do that.
Right.
That's those other people's thing, man. Right. And there's no after Public Enemy. I'm still in Public Enemy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you're talking, that stuff is like 15 years ago, 20 years ago you're reading from. Yeah.
Well, let me just jump right into the question that we were dealing with and people are listening in for. And I guess the question to you, I guess to get it started, who or what is the biggest danger culturally to cultural enlightenment? And can hip-hop play a role, given the main players who occupy the airwaves in our hearts and minds, especially the hearts and minds of the youth and young adults today?
Now, that's a lot of question. That's a lot of question, and you could probably spend the rest of the week talking about. But the first part of that question, just the number one danger is racism, white supremacy. Racism, white supremacy is probably the number one danger because it's at the core, and it's probably the crux of the problem. Simply because if you dealt with racism, white supremacy, you would probably get a foothold on the other stuff. Any situation that you probably deal with, being black in America, you look at the core of it, and you'll see racism, white supremacy, and no question about it, hands down, probably the crux of the problem. Simply because a lot of us, we just don't have a foundation and understanding, of what it is, and we tend to point at it and call it other things. That first question that you have to ask yourself when you go into these AAA meetings and these other things. You have to admit that there's a problem. Admit that there's a problem. It's going to be hard to solve the problem.
Yeah,
so,
you have to begin with a diagnosis
exactly
of the problem.
So, in adequately diagnosing the problem, you'll come up with viable solutions that fit the problem. Not beating around the bush, calling it discrimination, calling it prejudice. The police shot my son, but you never told us that your son robbed the bank, stole the car, shot at somebody, had drugs on him and some other stuff. Stop that.
So call it what it is, the biggest danger being racism, white supremacy.
Yes, of course. And a lot of us just really don't want to admit it. And we don't want to define it. It's the big, fat, ugly, smelly elephant that's in the living room, and the parents walk by it every day.
Right.
Acting like it's not there.
Right.
It's there because it's there in the 9 areas of people activity. It's there in education. It's there in politics. It's there in economics. It's there in entertainment, labor. It's there in sex. It's in the kitchen. It's there on TV. It's there in the media, which is the third branch of government. It's there. I said right when I got on the phone, me and our good brother Ray Hagins, it's 2 different conversations. I didn't come to talk about religion. I don't do religion. They didn't take religion and just throw it in the garbage as far as I'm concerned. Spirituality all day. Religion, keep it. You can keep it. And there's a few things I wrote down that he said. You have religious freedom in America? When?
Yeah, right.
When did this happen?
Yeah.
And the 3 main things that they talk about is the Lord Jesus Christ, the Civil War, and the Titanic. Stop that, sir. From a Eurocentric white perspective, yes. I'm a young black man living in Atlanta. We don't discuss that.
I don't see you get that much discussion here either. That's in his small part of the world, I suppose. We're going to go back to the telephone lines, and Professor Griff is on the phone with us, and you can jump in at any time. Go ahead.
Good morning. This is Frank from Largo.
Morning, Frank.
Professor Griff, it's an honor to speak with you, sir. I have in my hands right now the Rebirth of a Nation CD with Public Enemy in Paris. And on one of the picture panels, it has you and the security of the first world, Pop Diesel and James Bomb, and it says, "Fighting the New World Order." Sir, I would like you to define what you mean by the New World Order, and I have a message for you as well. Alex Jones of InfoWars has been trying really hard to get you on for an interview, and I'll take my answer off the air. Thank you, Mobili, for having Professor Griff on.
Thank you for calling, Frank. Go ahead.
Well, let me answer that question in reverse. Please tell Alex Jones to give me a call at 678-557-2919. Alex Jones can call me anytime at 678-557-2919. I'd be glad to be on Alex Jones's show. I believe Alex Jones already knows that I'm an info warrior. It's one of those things where if you're going to fight truth, regardless of the complexion of your skin, truth is the truth. You see, I think the way we kind of dealing with these situations in America, we don't really know who is the core of the problem. And for a long time, these people have talked about establishing and putting in place a new world order. And the Alex Joneses and the Jordan Maxwells and the Michael Tessarians, a lot of people have scoffed at a lot of the things that they've put out there simply because the people that have been saying this are still trying to play the race card. These gentlemen have been written off as crazy. They've been written off as the information is outdated and, this is all that old conspiracy stuff. We truly know and understand a lot of what they bring is actual fact. I've heard stories about the New World Order not existing, these crazy conspiracy theories about Illuminati and this kind of thing. Stop that. These things are very, 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 very real. The New World Order, let's just look at some of the things that not only Alex Jones, myself, Steve Coakley, other people have talked about 10 years ago that they put in place now. Let's just look at the ID card. Let's look at Homeland Security. Let's look at fluoridation of water. Let's look at chemtrails. Let's look at HARP. Let's look at all these things that we was written off as being crazy about when we talked about these things. Let's look at Professor Griff when he did the Obama deception, one of Alex Jones's film, when I talked about the Obama deception, when I talked about how Obama's going to sign off on AFRICOM. And you wrote Professor Griff and Alex Jones off as crazy. But now when you look at it, you see the moves your president, Barry Davis, is making. So when we talked about, Barack Obama, excuse me. When you look at these things and you roll time back 5-10 years ago, you wrote us off as crazy. And then now when you read it, it's like, wow, you know something? Those guys were absolutely correct.
Well,
and no one called to give us an apology.
I tell you, you're probably not gonna get that, but I tell you what thing that I will say is that when the ruling class gets in crisis, they play themselves, and so they can no longer hide. Like when you look at 2007, September 2007, when the economy almost tanked, and somebody had to step in, whether it was the Federal Reserve. I guess the Federal Reserve was all it was to save capitalism. And they basically began to show signs of being in real crisis and real desperation. And so when people are desperate, especially at the top of the economy, they're liable to do just about anything. And we are seeing the New World Order really looks a whole lot like the old world order, only more chaotic.
Woo! Belay.
Yes, sir.
It's the G Lab from Superpower Pills.
Okay.
You know what I'm about.
Yes, sir.
It sounds like I'm about the same thing. I'm here, so what I talk to you about, you might need to talk to the professor about. We could do our label, too, so we could drop some stuff, because we've been dropping that stuff for 10 years, and they took us off TV. And I noticed that it's unlike religion, they take away the noise that they hear that sounds like a squeaky wheel. and they always want to point at that noise and say that they don't hear it, but it's a weird sound and they need to turn it down. Instead of addressing that the noise is being made because something is ailing or something is needed to be projected from that item. Be it as it may, I just wanted to call up and say that it's atrocious that we have people that walk around with these blinders on for whatever reason. I like to thank Professor because my name's Griffin, and if for some reason that's not my real name, and I have to go by that, and I catch hell for that name. Like a lot of other rap artists that change their name from that. I don't know what the hell that is, but that's why I believe it's a conspiracy, because I looked at the name and see what it really represented, the Klan and stuff. I'm like, why the hell my name the Klan? And I hate the hell out of all of that. You understand what I'm saying? I
never knew that, Griffin.
Yeah, I'm like, so when I go places to say it, they look stupid and they treat me stupid, man, with that. So I'm like, hey, yeah, my name is G-O-D, not D-O-G. That's where that came from. D-O-G was the Egyptian head they wore as a god. See?
Let's get a response from Professor Griff real quick before we have to get off the air.
All right, I'm sorry. You know me.
I think the brother may have a point there. It's hard to follow so many points that he made. But I think when I originally decided to do this particular talk this morning, I wanted to talk about the Illuminati's takeover of hip-hop. And I wanted to talk about the psychological covert war on hip-hop, where I deal with the New World Order, and I deal with some of these things that affect us as a human family, but dealing with it through the medium of hip-hop. And I wanted to talk about not only the Rebirth CD, where it talks about the New World Order and the things that they've put in place to see that the New World Order is actually established. It's the New World Order is here already. We're living in the New World Order. I think a lot of us need to just be brought up to speed on what's going on with the New World Order. So I'm going to talk about the psychological covert war on hip-hop, which is my book that's out. And this information, I've just established a website, www.pgriff.info. That's pgriff.info, that I'm going to put this information up on my site in case a lot of people just can't come to the lecture or don't get it. I think we have to have this discussion. White, black, red, yellow, Jew, Muslim, Christian, all of us, because these people that are putting this New World Order in place don't care about none of us. Absolutely none of us.
Well, you can say that again.
So we need to understand this particular dynamic. And I'm slowly beginning to understand the dynamic of this race thing. That, if we probably sat down and had a conversation, we'd probably point out the real culprit, to be honest with you. So a lot of people in the We Are Change movement and other movements around the country that I work with that don't look like me. And I'm perfectly fine with that, because we're beating back these falsehoods, regardless of what complexion we are. And a lot of people these few people that are sitting back, they really do not want us to get together to have these discussions, because we'll probably figure out who the real culprit is.
Yeah, but they can't stop us now.
Oh, definitely not. But I just want to warn you of something, good brother. You're going to have people that the government set up just to call in to confuse things. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Now, these agents may not even come across as agents, but they have a mission to confuse the conversation, to throw things out there to take the conversation off track. These people are paid to do this on Facebook and on the internet and other places.
Yeah, I was watching.
All they do, they sit back and cause confusion.
I went to our local so-called Occupy movement. It was showing the Black Power mixtape, and all of a sudden these two white gentlemen who nobody knew just came around straight up to me and asked me what we were doing. And clearly these were cops. Clearly these were agents of the state coming to find out why we were watching something called the Black Power mixtape. Go ahead, Zebulon. You're on the air with Professor Griff.
Greetings.
Yeah,
I just wanted to tell Professor Griff I always really respected your work with
give thanks.
With the other artists that you work with, in Public Enemy, and the things that I've heard you speak on. Religion is personal. Government and the things that happen in the economy and in the world, those are for the masses. Religion is your personal connection between you and your Creator, And really, I feel like we waste too much time arguing about religion, and we should really just let everyone have their own religion. And as Malcolm X said, if your religion hasn't done anything more for you than what it's done, maybe you need to think about giving it up and finding something else. So that's how I look at the religious question. I mean, I am a Christian, but I don't try to beat people over the head with it. But what I was getting ready to say is the New World Order, he's right. It's nothing new about it. I mean, if you look on the back of the money, right on the Great Seal, so-called of the United States, remember the Bible, Babylon is called the Great, it says Novum Ordo Seclorum, which means new secular or new worldly or new world order. And it also says in Latin right there on that same seal, annuit coeptus, which means to take from another. So it's theft. New World Order is theft. It's cultural theft, economic theft, it's political theft, it's spiritual theft. They will steal your soul if you let them.
That's a good point, Zebulon.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there and let people know that there are ways you can come off the brainwashing without even opening the Bible. Although if you open the Bible with the right perspective, it'll help you come off the brainwashing too. So I just wanted to say that. Bless everyone.
Thank you.
YouTube.com/OpenUpYourMind101